It is Sunday night. The alarm is set for a Monday you would rather skip. And in the back of your mind sits the same quiet thought most Australians have had. What if the money just showed up without the job? That is the dream, isn't it? Income that turns up whether you work or not. You go to sleep and it keeps paying. No boss, no roster, no Sunday dread. It is real. Australians genuinely do it. But almost everything you have been told about how to get there uses numbers that are either out of date or quietly too optimistic. So today, let us walk through the 3 ways Australians actually build passive income: owning a business, owning property for rent, and owning shares that pay dividends. The 3 real paths, and here is the honest thread running through all 3. Generally, not one of them is truly passive. Every single one asks for something first, usually years of work or a large pile of money. Let us anchor this in a real number. Say you earn $60,000 a year. That is close to the middle of what Australians actually earn. That is the income we are trying to replace, or at least chip away at. And the tool most people reach for first is the one Australians love above all others: property. But here is the first catch. Property assumes you can even buy a second one. Right now, about a third of Australian households rent. For many, a first home is hard enough. Still, here is how the property dream gets sold. Buy a place, rent it out, let the tenant pay it off, collect the income. Simple, passive, the Australian way to wealth. Now the reality: the rent you collect before any costs is generally only about 3.5% of what the place is worth. That is the gross rental yield. But your mortgage right now is charging you close to 7%. The average variable home loan sits near 6.9% as of July 2026. So before you have paid a single rate bill, the loan alone costs more than the rent brings in. Then add council rates, insurance, strata, and the hot water system that always dies in winter. This is why so many rentals lose money every single month. Of Australia's 2.2 million property investors, around half are negatively geared. Their property runs at a loss. Negative gearing is just a polite phrase for that. The property costs you money to hold. You are not collecting passive income. You are funding it and betting the price goes up instead. And there is a change worth knowing. From the 1st of July 2027, buy an established home that runs at a loss. And generally, you can no longer claim it against your salary. That perk is being wound back to new builds only. So be clear about what property is. For most people, it is not passive income while you hold it. It is a long, leveraged bet that the price climbs faster than the costs bleed you, which brings us to the second path. Owning a business that pays you while you sleep. The cafe that runs itself. A website or a bit of gear that quietly earns in the background. This path has the biggest upside of the 3 and by far the most work up front. A business that truly runs without you is not something you buy. It is something you build over years. Think about the local cafe owner. Everyone assumes they are set, but most are there at 5 in the morning, chasing staff and wearing all the risk. That is a job they own, not passive income. So to the third path, shares that pay dividends. And for most everyday Australians, this is generally the closest thing to genuinely passive income there is. You own a slice of a company like Commonwealth Bank or BHP. A few times a year, they send you a share of the profit. No tenants, no staff, no 5 in the morning starts. Generally, the broad Australian share market pays a dividend yield of around 3.5% right now, according to Morningstar in 2026. Cash lands in your account for owning the shares. And on top of that cash, most Aussie dividends generally come with franking credits, a credit for tax the company has already paid. It is a good deal and fairly unique to Australia. But here is the part almost every passive income video skips. And it is the most important idea in this whole video. Passive income is not really passive at all. It is deferred income. You do the hard work now, building the pile, so that later it can pay you for doing nothing. The magic is at the end. The graft is all at the start. And this is where Australians quietly sabotage themselves, especially with our beloved banks and mining companies, which generally pay some of the biggest dividends in the world. Picture the tree and the fruit. In the building years, if you spend every dividend the moment it lands, you are eating the fruit while the tree is still trying to grow. Those big bank and mining company dividends are generally meant to be replanted early on, reinvested, buying more shares, compounding on themselves. That is what builds the pile in the first place. According to Vanguard's 30-year index chart, Australian shares have returned around 9% a year over the past 3 decades. But that figure assumes every dividend was reinvested. Spend those dividends instead of replanting them, and you fall well short of that 9%. You are left with mostly price growth, and you have thrown away a big part of the engine. One more thing, if you do reinvest, every reinvested dividend buys shares at that day's price. And when you eventually sell, capital gains tax applies to all that growth. And those tax rules are changing. From the 1st of July 2027, the old 50% capital gains discount is being replaced. For some people, the eventual bill may be higher than before. So how big does the pile actually need to be? Let us do the maths in the open, rather than pluck a number from thin air. As an example only, if you assumed a 5% yield, then $60,000 of income would need a portfolio of $1.2 million. But the broad market is not generally paying 5% today. According to Morningstar, it is closer to 3.5%, and that pushes the real figure up towards $1.7 million. Franking credits soften that a little because they top up the income, but there is no way around it. Full salary replacement through dividends is a genuine mountain to climb. And this is where I want to change the whole frame, because you do not need to replace your entire salary. That is the trap that makes people give up before they even start. What if the goal was not never working again? What if it was simply working a little less, 4 days instead of 5, the same life with 1 day handed back to you? To buy back 1 day a week, you generally only need to replace about 1/5 of your income. On $60,000, that is $12,000 a year. At 3.5%, replacing that 1 day takes a portfolio around $340,000. Still serious money, but a world away from 1.7 million. And for a lot of Australians in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, that is the real dream. Not quitting entirely, just easing the foot off the pedal with income quietly filling the gap. So think back to that Sunday night and the dream of money that just shows up. It turns out it can, just not in the effortless way the hype likes to sell it. Every path asks you to plant before you pick. And maybe the dream was never about stopping work altogether. Maybe it is just Thursday off, with income quietly covering the gap. If this cleared a few things up, do me a favor. Give it a like. It helps this kind of content reach more Australians who need it. Subscribe and turn on notifications so the next one finds you. See you in the next one.